Should get a notification. There it is. Excellent. So thanks everyone for joining a special community meeting. In addition to our monthly updates, we are going to go through 2022 strategy for next year, looking at all of our different goals and plans and how that relates to what we're trying to accomplish, given what we know about the world, which is increasingly something we're taking into consideration. We'll go through a normal agenda, looking at the core values, some committee updates just for December, financial update for December, general
you can technically
marketing updates.
Down post, but if it is like a fake individual or like a fake client or such,
I think you're sharing your audio from your.
I don't want to promise anything though, because that's usually.
Just because we're recording this, I want to make sure that that wasn't out on there for too long. And then we'll go to the strategy deep dive. So we'll spend most of our time on that. So core values, as always, and this is kind of repeated in the strategy document. Focus on transparency, safety, community, and action. All these things bringing some focus and some thinking to how we plan all of our work here at Highwire Improv. And something we try and remind ourselves of on a regular basis, even if we don't have anything in particular in one of these areas. As always, quick update on COVID-19, the show status. No changes since November. Baltimore City remains high community transmission. There's no indication that we'll remove the mask mandate. So our in-person plans remain modified. Indoor shows are postponed indefinitely, and expect that to continue for a little while. And outdoor shows are still okay to do, given what we know, but we're probably not going to do any for a couple months because it's going to be cold and potentially rainy and snowy. But if something comes up, we'll consider it. Online shows, of course, always an option, and will continue indefinitely. To that end, some committee updates on the programming side. Season 5 has been underway for a bit now, or a little over a month through the season. It's been going great. Over 45 teams, including a bunch of new folks this time. The remainder of those shows will be online. And we just opened up the season 6 submissions. Those will be open through mid-January, and the season will run again, another 3-month season from February through near the end of April. So that's going to be available on our website. We're going to do an email blast sending that information, as well as a couple other updates on the slide through to our email list to reach people who aren't on Facebook or Instagram. The next big update, and it is a really big one, is that our 501c3 was approved after sitting with the government for 8 months. So that's really exciting. Obviously, that's a huge deal for us in that all of our income from this year is tax exempt, but even more importantly, we can start to do grant applications. We can do a much more concerted press towards donations, and it's obviously a much more appealing donation option for people now that we are officially 501c3. They have that clarity and that stamp of approval from the government, which we so desperately seek validation from. Really exciting though. In all seriousness, it's going to open up a lot of stuff for us in 2022. And we are just so pumped to have gotten the letter, and that letter is not a rejection letter. It came in a very thin envelope, and I was transported back to college applications where there was a difference between envelope size in terms of whether you were admitted or not. But it was a thin envelope, and it was still a yes. So very, very exciting. Big deal. And then moving into education, we're excited to be resuming workshops in the start of the year. We'll talk a little bit during the strategy component about what our education plans are and kind of working towards core curriculum, but we're going to continue to be doing these targeted and kind of topic specific workshops with instructors from all over the world. We have one booked with Chris George, who has an impressive bio, and that is for January 22nd. So those will begin again in the new year. And another one that some people probably haven't seen a lot about is that we were actually, we've done a lot of work over the past couple of months to launch an applied improv program, which has been really exciting. We've got a a small group of people who have been working behind the scenes to put together some structure and some preparation. Darren on the call is a big driving force behind that. So thank you, Darren, as well as Brian, Sam, Kristen, Jonathan Monroe, a couple others. Really, really exciting. And we are now live with one client. We have another one that we are finalizing the details for, and really, really excited about this. We're going to do some press, hopefully, with our first client after their class ends. We are basically doing bespoke training courses for the clients at this point. We may, as we learn more, do some more kind of off the shelf type. Here's a menu of courses that are available for folks, but we're basically consulting with companies to do specific training for their organizations. The first big client is a educational company out of Pittsburgh who are doing online math courses, and they have been building up a cohort of high schoolers to serve as teaching assistants for those courses. And they came to us cold email and said, can you train these high schoolers in improv so they'll be more comfortable teaching middle schoolers math? And for anybody who knows me, that was you couldn't have made a better Venn diagram of interests than that. And so we're really excited to work with them. We're 2 weeks through a 4-week class with them. And then we have a couple of leads, including some company that Darren used to work for on the kind of the more traditional corporate side. And we are looking into talking with college and university admissions offices and career centers as another potential niche to talk through. So more to come there. We'll talk about that a little bit in the strategy section in some more detail, but really excited to launch that before the end of the year. Pretty basic finance stuff for November. It was a pretty quiet month since we didn't have any workshops live. So really it's kind of the typical stuff, donations and software fees. We jumped on like a yearly deal with Restream where normally we pay that month to month, but they had like a 50% off if you paid for a whole year. So we snapped that up, which is why it was a little higher than usual. And pretty typical for the last few months, right around break even. Bank balance is about the same as it's been for a little while. But hopefully that'll change in 2022 with all of our various activities kicking off. So that's exciting. And then on the kind of overall growth numbers, pretty typical change here. Slow, steady growth on all of our different channels. YouTube has been nice. We've seen kind of an uptake on our offline show numbers too, as our number of subscribers grows, which has been exciting. And we'll start to pull that in, I think, as well, based on some of the strategic thinking and wanting to really focus on growing the online audience. And we will maybe look at presenting this data in a different way going into 2022 if there are metrics or kind of pieces of information people find more or less interesting. So I'll pause there. Are there any questions on December before we jump into kind of the bigger 2022 discussions? In the chat or on the phone is totally fine.
Who should we talk with if we have questions about doing applied improv, like you doing it maybe for some group of people at Penn State? Who should I talk with?
For now, just email Highwire Improv and we'll route it. We'll probably work to get something a little bit more formal in terms of, hey, this is the committee working on that. But for now, right, just our normal email address is a good starting place.
And what if we have ideas for training collaboration ideas? Just same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. If it's something more substantive, we'll set up some time to talk through it. But that sounds super exciting. I think we were talking a little bit about how colleges, in particular, I think are going to be a good cohort for this, just given how much a lot of colleges have invested in dealing with the online world. It really opens us up to our particular expertise. That's exciting. Thank you.
Super exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And so for the second half of this, I'll try and quickly go through some of the key points that we have for the strategy overview. At any time, if you have a question, feel free to stop me or chime in on the chat, and then we'll kind of open it up for general Q&A at the end. This pretty closely follows the doc that we sent out a link to. So if you've read that, you're going to see a lot of the same material, but I'm just going to try and highlight a couple of key points about how we're thinking about taking on the year, and then why these are important goals for us and what we're attempting to work towards with them. And if I remember, I'll talk about why we're not doing certain other things as they come up. And so these are in priority order. So 1 through 6 these are our top goals for the year. So the first is to continue the work that our anti-racism, anti-oppression committee had kicked off last year. We've kind of tried to build into the bones of the organization. Really focused on a couple things here. Getting continued financial support for this work. So we have a specific accounting fund that people can donate to, that we can use to pay for activities in this field. We want to try and target specific donations toward that fund and grow that so that we always have a bank of resources to do work that comes up opportunistically in this space. We want to make sure we continue hosting community training sessions, both for Highwire as well as the broader improv community. We had 3 really great sessions last year. We want to do it again, at least 3 this coming year. We want to target continued scholarship students in our classes and workshops, and we're speaking about that pretty broadly. We've been pretty open and loose with the specific groups that can access scholarships. We don't want to have a scholarship process that's heavy or requires people to kind of explain why they deserve a scholarship. And so in the future, we may look at how our classes are performing in terms of reaching various specific communities. But for now, the focus is just to make sure that we have this scholarship program and that we are doing enough to make sure that it's being used and people know about it. And then kind of on the teacher side, we want to develop and publish our point of view on training and vetting our own improv instructors. And you'll see that here for like traditional comedic improv, but also in the applied improv section later on. So those are the big areas. We know there's a number of groups that we can reach out to for support in this work. But the approach is pretty straightforward. It's just making sure that we are including this type of work in our financial planning and development opportunities, as well as all of the different training and education committees and work that we do. The second goal here, and again, priority 2, is what we are just describing as long-term stability. This is a big component of what we put in our 2021 strategy as well. There wasn't like a ton we could specifically do with it until we achieved the 501c3 support. But the goal here is we also have a separate accounting fund that is basically for organizational longevity. We saw innumerable improv theaters and other arts organizations go out of business with COVID-19, and people lost their jobs. Communities lost access to important programming and support, and we want to do as much as possible to steward the growth of the organization to avoid that possibility. And so this really kind of comes into play in a push and a pull here. One is we want to get some money in, again, through the donations, through the various income streams that we're going to build, and funnel that away to a rainy day fund, which we're very lightly calling our last laugh accounting fund. And that's there basically, again, just to have a buffer in case something ridiculous happens, right? We're not at the point as an organization where we have a lot of expenses or have a lot of obligations, and we want to make sure that we grow responsibly with our obligations. So right now, we have limited costs, and so the amount of money we need to store for a rainy day is limited. But as we grow and take on more obligations, that will grow, and it's important for us here to raise some money. But it's equally important for the organization to understand, hey, if you're going to take on a $4,000 a month lease, for example, you better have a lot more money saved up than you did before, and kind of using that as a control on the growth of the organization. and a reminder that, we're building something up that needs to remain stable. So we're going to kind of keep that ongoing target of a certain number of months of expenses. We may try and grow that over time as well, but the figure will grow naturally as our expenses grow too. And a lot of the stuff here is really related to our overall organizational development, which I guess is the polite term to say instead of raising money. And so covering organizational insurance, doing a Kickstarter or similar campaign, hosting a marathon once we can do in-person events, and then constructing a more detailed online donation page that kind of gives people a sense of, hey, if I donate $50, that funds this scholarship or this technology cost or whatever it is, so people have a connection to what they are able to contribute to. Third is growing online audiences, and what you'll see here, and what you won't necessarily see the reverse of, like we don't have a specific goal in here about growing in-person shows or in-person audiences, and that's reflective of the uncertainty that we will be able to do many in-person shows, as well as the kind of confidence that we have that online improv will remain a big part of what happens in the overall improv community, and certainly a big part of what Highwire contributes to that community. And we want to make sure that if given that online improv is going to stay around, and there are a lot of people who we work with who want to do it, how can we make that as fruitful for them as possible? And from my point of view, and from a lot of the people that we've talked to, a big part of that is making sure people are watching the shows, right? People want crowds, people like to have their shows seen. That makes it worth doing. And so we really want to put some specific emphasis towards growing the number of people who are watching our shows live, but also watching our shows on replay. We've talked about this in previous community meetings, but we see over 50% of our views on replay, which I think is great and totally valid. But we want to try and target both, because I think that's indicative of our growing reach. And again, it kind of opens up formats too for people to have shows that are more interactive potentially. If we do have in-person shows, and when those occur, one thing that's really important to us is not disconnecting that experience from the online experience, right? Not kind of leaving people who are not going to things in person behind. So part of that is recording in-person shows, and part of that is getting to the ideal of being able to stream our in-person shows as well. We recognize that there's going to be some technology to purchase to support doing that. There's going to be some learning to do it right in a way that's actually an enjoyable experience. I've seen some recorded improv shows that are unwatchable because the sound is terrible, or because it's from 400 feet away for some reason. We obviously will try and not do that, and so that's why these aren't record all in-person shows or stream all in-person shows. We know we're gonna have to do some work to get there, and along with this kind of comes the tactics of building out different ways to grow these online audiences. A lot of other potential ideas are here, and I want to be clear, the tactics that are listed here are just examples. We're talking about how people can get involved and contribute their own ideas to these various goals. Fourth is to launch core curriculum. This is obviously really important to extend beyond the workshop space. Kristen, if you want to jump in and talk more about this, please do. But the goal is to get something out there, both in terms of our approach as well as the delivery of actual core curriculum classes and the development of teachers.
Yeah, and I'll just add, hi everybody. I'll just add that this partnership, hopefully that will be ongoing with XB. We started out with the Improv for Math Nerds, which has been really great because it has really kind of forced us to just get going and like take and be like, okay, what can we do? I have for a while been talking about doing 4-week modules for more experienced students and performers. And so this has been kind of a good way to test that out and, get it going. Additionally, if the partnership with XB works out, I think they're saying they would like to have basically a class going every month for, indefinitely. And they've even expressed interest in adding like an additional level. So once everyone's gotten through the first level, there could be a second level available for students who want it, or it might be compulsory. I'm not sure. I also, so that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for anyone who wants to get some teaching reps or even like coaching reps, get comfortable with that. I think that is going to be a really great way to do that, because the goal will be to have, a roster of teachers that, that we can rotate. And so it's really important to me and important to Highwire, obviously, to, open that up to as many people as possible. So if we can have one or more going every month, I think that'll be great. All that to say, I think what we're doing with XB is what the core curriculum, or at least part of it, could look like. So I hope that all made sense. Yeah.
Nice, thank you. Relatedly, develop applied improv is our fifth of the six kind of primary goals here. We're already kind of making progress here, obviously, but the goal is to develop some of those client specific improv courses. We'll evaluate as we go along if there's something that really does work off the shelf, but initially we're kind of thinking it is a little bit of a consultation for each of these, trying to get at least 3 different clients, run at least 6 sessions, try and get some real tangible experience in this space so that we can start to market that as a more robust offering. Plus one to what Kristen said, like it's a really huge part of a lot of improv theaters, both from a financial point of view, but also from a development point of view, because of the opportunities it provides for developing teachers. And so really excited about that. And we also want to take this pretty seriously in terms of, I think there's a lot of people out there who just kind of claim applied improv. So we're doing surveys for all of our courses, pre and post course, to try to at least do qualitative research, if not some quantitative research on the impact that these courses are having, so we can make adjustments and improve things. And again, we can refer to that material when trying to book more clients, but also to kind of prove to ourselves that this is worth people spending money on. Same here, want to develop teachers and a growing roster of those teachers.
Just sorry to interject real quick.
No, please.
One person's Zoom kind of cut out for a second and they asked me to repeat. And maybe I can say it better this time. Yeah, the applied improv, it's looking like they want classes, basically every month, right? Like month to month, running these like first, like basically it's a very, very intro to improv level class. These classes are very low pressure. There's not like a showcase or anything at the end of that. So it's very rudimentary stuff. And so, yes, so hopefully if it works out with this company, we could potentially be running at least one level every month, potentially another level if they really like it and they have a group of kids who maybe want to keep going a little bit, get some more training, maybe throw in a show, at the end of that if they're so inclined. And yeah, I would love for this because it's so rudimentary and it's so like prescribed, the curriculum. I think it could be a great place for people who want to get, teaching reps, or even coaching reps, to start doing that. Because ideally we would have a roster of people who are like, hey, I want to get some teaching reps, or hey, I'd just like to do this month. Yeah. And just like on a personal note, it's been really fun. The kids have been really great. Like they're just a real fun, smart group of kids. You couldn't really ask for a better like first teaching experience because 1, they all have to be there. It's compulsory for their employment. And 2, they're just like the kind of kids who will dive in and like care about stuff like this. So they're all doing that and it's been really great. So did I answer that appropriately? Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then, yeah, our sixth goal here is the lowest priority and probably the most uncertain, which is the work for in-person spaces. We do feel confident that we're going to be able to continue doing outdoor shows. So I think that helps us out with a lot of this. But one of the things we want to make sure we do as we continue to build up in-person programming, whatever that looks like, is make sure we're doing that all over Baltimore and the surrounding area. And so one of our specific goals here is to perform in 5 venues, and ideally, not houses next to each other. The idea of being in different neighborhoods, being in different parts of the city, so that people have access to what we're doing. And then second, looking for and providing support for community practice and workshop space. So once in person activities are safe to do, we're prioritizing getting space for teams to be able to rehearse and for us to host in-person workshops, above and beyond trying to find some kind of semi-permanent or permanent performance venue. We expect, at least in the majority of 2022, to continue performing at other venues across the city, rather than try to find and lease a permanent space for us. I think there's just a lot that goes into getting that right, and a lot that we want to make sure we have foundationally before we take that step, both financially and as an organization. That's not to say we won't hear opportunities. If somebody has a mansion that they want to sell to us for $10,000, we'll definitely take that phone call. But realistically, we're going to be looking at performing in other venues that have established infrastructure and audience, and looking to provide spaces for community use rather than for performance, with an expectation that as we go into 2023 plus, we'll start to shift that balance, and we'll do our fundraising and our development accordingly. And so that's an overview. I'm going to pause here and open it up for any kind of Q&A. Thank you all for listening, for joining us. And if you're watching this on replay, thanks for watching it on replay. If you have questions for us on replay, you can email them to highwireimprov@gmail.com. But for now, I'll open it up for any live Q&A. That's not a question.
I was going to say, whose cat is that? Is that yours?
That's not ours, is it?
I don't think
It's not
so.
Dionysus.
No, Dionysus is sleeping soundly.
For now.
Did we talk about the Highwire deck still being available?
No, we did not. The Highwire deck is still available.
It's still available.
It is not.
Someone actually bought one today.
Really
Yes.
nice. It's no longer available with first edition on the box.
This is true.
But yes, you can go to thegamecrafter.com and purchase a Highwire deck still. We're not going to take them down.
Nope.
Great response so far. Everybody's been really excited about them. So if you have one, leave a review if you can. That's always good. And tell your friends they can still buy one.
And shout out to Corey. I think he's still here.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Still here.
The creator.
out of his work meeting. Wonderful. There are no questions. We will again open it up always for, you can always email us or Facebook message us. Email's a little bit more reliable, especially if there's going to be back and forth. But any input is good input. So do ask us questions. If you want to get involved, we are also going to look to set up more regular combined committee meetings. One of the things we recognized going into throughout last year was it was a little bit uncertain, like what committing to a committee looked like. And so one thing we'll be doing is trialing a new version of that, where we kind of decide what our top tactics and top things we want to work on over a period of a few months is, so that people can say what we're working on. They can sign up just for a couple months to work on those specific things. And we'll see if that's a better way to engage people. And as always, if you have a ad hoc one-off idea and you just want to work on that with us, we are happy to have that help. And email us, reach out, and one of us will help set that up. Really want to make this in line with those community and action values. We want to try things, we want to do things. And if people in the community want to be people doing those things, we will help make that happen. Wonderful. Thanks so much. As always, I'm going to stop the recording and we will publish this for consumption later.